In a wild turn of events, Miss Gina Carano has teamed up with the world's richest man, Mr. Elon Musk, to file a massive lawsuit against Disney. Specifically, if you remember back to August of last year, August 2023, Elon Musk posted the following announcement over on his Twitter page. Quote, "If you were unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill. No limit, please let us know." And indeed, among the tens of thousands of people who responded to that announcement was this woman right here, Miss Gina Carano. She's a former fighter in the UFC turned professional actress. She responded to Elon Musk's call for submissions, and eventually, the lawyers who were hired by Elon Musk, they reached out to Gina, and they're now pursuing her case. And quite a case it is. In fact, let me back up for a quick moment and set the stage for you properly regarding what actually happened to Miss Gina Carano. To start with, this right here is Disney, the corporation which was once the very emblem of pure Americana. But recently, they've been facing massive challenges, including an astounding loss of about $79 billion worth of market cap in just the last 3 years alone. And while the reason for their loss is multifaceted, the incident that took place in relation to Ms. Gina Carano, it really helps to explain a large component of why Disney's on the chopping block. Because you see, back in 2021, Disney's stock price was at an all-time high. They were swimming in cash, and among their many new releases was a show called The Mandalorian, set within the Star Wars universe, and at the time, it was one of, if not the most watched shows online. However, in February of 2021, two of the main actors in The Mandalorian, Ms. Gina Carano and Mr. Pedro Pascal, they made two separate, very different political statements. And even though they both use analogies to Nazis and the Holocaust to make their point, well, Lucasfilm, which is owned by Disney, decided to fire only one of them. And so, let's compare the two statements that were made. On the one hand, you had Mr. Pedro Pascal, who posted this image onto Instagram. His post likened half of the country, who happened to support President Trump, to the Nazis of 1945, as well as to the Confederates of 1865. Okay, so that was on the one hand, comparing Trump supporters, who make up about half of America, to Nazis. On the other hand, you had Ms. Gina Carano, who posted this image on social media showing a Jewish woman being chased around in Poland during the Nazi occupation, and she wrote the following message above that photo, quote, "Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?" Now, her post, made in the year 2021, was likely in reference to the discrimination that unvaccinated people were experiencing at that particular time, which included things like dehumanizing statements from the mainstream media and from government officials, exclusion from indoor facilities, and even the loss of their jobs and careers if they refused to get the shot. Or perhaps it was a reference to just generally half the country being labeled as Nazis. Regardless, these were the two political statements that were made by the two stars of The Mandalorian. Mr. Pedro Pascal compared Trump supporters to Nazis, while Ms. Gina Carano suggested that demonizing a group of people could lead to genocide. And wouldn't you believe it? While absolutely nothing happened to Mr. Pedro Pascal, Ms. Gina Carano was fired. According to Lucasfilm, which is, again, a subsidiary of Walt Disney Studios, they released a statement giving their rationale from one of their spokespeople for the decision to fire Ms. Gina Carano. Quote, "Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable." Now, the irony there is rather obvious. If you look again at her social media post, it has nothing that you could reasonably argue is denigrating people based on their cultural or religious identities. Unlike the other post from Mr. Pascal, who is indeed denigrating people, at least based on their political stance. Regardless though, while Mr. Pedro Pascal's career was unaffected, Ms. Gina Carano, she was not only fired from her role in The Mandalorian, but even her own agency decided to drop her as a client. However, in a further bit of perhaps cosmic irony, this incident took place in February of 2021, which happened to be the very high point of Disney's stock price. Ever since that incident, or rather the time of that incident, Disney's stock price has tanked by almost 50%, wiping out tens of billions in market value. However, as bad as it is to lose that much value, it appears that this incident will now be a legal thorn in Disney's side. That's because just yesterday, which is 3 full years after she was actually fired, Gina Carano released a lengthy statement announcing her lawsuit against Disney. Here's what she wrote, quote, "Today is an important day for me. I am filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilm and Disney. After my 20 years of building a career from scratch, and during the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek, Lucasfilm made this statement on Twitter, terminating me from The Mandalorian. Quote, Gina Carano is now currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is, I was being hunted down from everything I posted to every post I liked because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative of the time. My words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehumanize me as an alt-right wing extremist. It was a bullying smear campaign aimed at silencing, destroying, and making an example out of me. She then references some specific examples of her social media posts, and then she asked the following question, quote, were my questions about masks, lockdowns, and forced vaccines okay to ask and push the subject into the light? Should we have been allowed to publicly discuss those topics at that time without being harassed or censored? Absolutely. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co-stars permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? She then goes on to tell the brief story of reaching out to Elon Musk after he made that announcement, not expecting anything to come out of it. However, she added that quote, to my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. I would love to pick up where I left off and continue my journey of creating and participating in storytelling, which is my utmost passion and everything I work so hard for. It has been difficult to move forward with the lies and labels stuck on me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. I am grateful someone has come to my defense in such a powerful way and look forward to clearing my name. And so there you have it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm certainly looking forward to the discovery process in this particular case. It'll be interesting to see what type of internal emails and communications were going around inside of Disney before Ms. Gina Carano was kicked off for those particular posts. Although, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney decides to settle the case so that they won't have to release their internal documents. Let's wait and see how it plays out. Otherwise, in the meantime, if you'd like to go deeper into this particular story, I'll throw the links to my reference notes. You can find them down in the description box below this video if you'd like to peruse them at your own leisure. And of course, while you're down there looking for those links, take a quick moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons so that this video can be shared out to ever more people via the YouTube algorithm. And now, let me quickly introduce today's sponsor by showing you this little piece of money. Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. They have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins, and they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. It's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio. And then lastly, since on today's episode, we're talking about Mr. Elon Musk, I'll mention that earlier today, Mr. Elon Musk shared the trailer for our most recent exclusive episode over on Epoch TV to his own Twitter account. As you can see, as of this filming at least, the trailer now has something like 8 million views. And there's a good reason for it, because that episode is indeed awesome. Here's the trailer for your own viewing. Over in New Jersey, a political operative has just been arrested on felony mail-in ballot fraud charges stemming from the operations that he's allegedly been running for years over in Atlantic City. The political operative in question is Mr. Craig Calloway. He's the former president of the Atlantic City City Council. And locally, Mr. Calloway is seen as something of an expert in terms of mail-in ballots. The chairman of the Atlantic Council Republican Party summed it up quite succinctly. He can make or break an election. In terms of how Mr. Calloway was able to get this done, well, we now have some clues. Because last Thursday, Mr. Calloway, he was arrested and charged with federal voter fraud related to his work on mail-in ballots. The allegation here was that Mr. Calloway and his subordinates were voting on behalf of people who did not authorize them to do so and or were not even aware that this was all taking place. If you'd like to check out that exclusive episode, well, you can find it over on Epoch TV, our awesome no censorship video platform. I'll throw a link to it. It'll be right there at the top of the description box below. You can just click on that link. It'll take you to Epoch TV where you can watch that episode and all of our other exclusive episodes without any delay. Again, that link is right there at the top of the description box below. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.